Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nita Gaura Haribo, 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 Nita Gaura Haribo.
Welcome to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Thank you very much for coming today. It's a solemn day for all of us here because we heard early this morning about the passing of one of the great leaders of our Sanctity movement, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Krishna is very kind, however, and there's a way in which, in times of need, he sends the best among us. And he's done so in this case by sending Sri Mukunda Datta Prabhu and Sri Murti Prabhu here to give us solace by helping us remember Krishna. Sri Mukunda Datta Prabhu, our today's featured speaker, is from a different era. Krishna transported him by way of time machine to the present Kali Yuga. But in my humble opinion, he doesn't come from this age. It comes from a bygone age when people were real sadhus. He and his wife live in Vrindavan most of the year and then travel and preach all over the world. Sri Mukunda Datta Prabhu is one of the great scholars of our International Society for Krishna Consciousness, but not just a scholar. He's a true Vaishnava with a Vaishnava heart full of compassion for all. Also, he's had a lot of association with His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, so it'll be very nice to have you here today as we talk amongst ourselves and process the feeling of separation that we all have. So thank you very much for coming, Sri Mukunda Datta Prabhu and Sri Murti. We're very happy to have you here. Please give them both the warmest of ISKCON of Silicon Valley welcomes. Right.
Om Jnanathibharanthasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutaparikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakritatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalata Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustate Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I had been asked to speak on a topic that increases faith in Krishna consciousness and the process of becoming Krishna conscious. And that was before we had this unfortunate news of the departure of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, one of the greatest of Prabhupada's leading disciples. I got the news last night. Just now in Vrindavan itself, they're preparing Samadhi, so he's come back to Vrindavan. And the good news is that he'll stay in Vrindavan with us, and he'll be there for us whenever we want. So we offer our respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet first. And I'll try to say a few words that may be relevant, I think. I hadn't really planned on this. It's a day that at least I've been dreading, but we knew it was coming for a long time because practically speaking, Maharaj's health is, I don't know how anybody could continue in his condition. And anyway, we know in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna also that the soul is not withered by the wind, burnt by the fire, doesn't suffer all the changes that this material elements undergo. Everything in this world is temporary. You cannot stay in a material body forever. So somehow we'll try to carry on in his absence. In chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled what? Krishna explains the kinds of qualities that endear a devotee to him. And I'll just quickly read those. He says, those of you who know, you can also repeat or sing along with me. Adveshta sarvad bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukhakshami santushta satatam yogi yatatma drhanishchayah buddhir yomad bhakta same priyaha yasmannodvijate loko lokannodvijate chayah harshamarsha bhayodvegair mukto yasacha me priyaha anapeksha shuchir daksha udasino gatavyatha sarvarambha parityagi yomad bhakta same priyaha yo na hrishyati na dveshti na shochati na kangshati shubha shubha parityagi bhaktiman yah same priyaha samashatrau cha mitre cha tatha manapamanayo shitoshna sukhadukheshu samasanga vivarjataha tulyanandastu tarmauni santushto yena kenachit aniketa sthiramatir bhaktiman me priyo naraha yetu dharmyamritamidam yathuktam paryupasate shraddhadhanamat padama bhaktaste ativa me priyaha. That means one who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant always satisfied, self-controlled, engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. He by whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. One who's equal to friends and enemies, who's equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who's always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport, in this chapter from verse 2 through the end, from Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam, that is to say, fixing the mind on me, through Yetu Dharmyamritamidam, the last verse, this religion of eternal engagement, the Supreme Lord has explained the processes of transcendental service for approaching Him. Such processes are very dear to the Lord, and He accepts a person engaged in them. The question of who is better, one who is engaged in the path of impersonal Brahman, or one who is engaged in the personal service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was raised by Arjuna, and the Lord replied to him so explicitly that there is no doubt that devotional service to the personality of Godhead is the best of all processes of spiritual realization. In other words, in this chapter it is decided that through good association one develops attachment for pure devotional service, and thereby accepts a bona fide spiritual master, and from him begins to hear and chant, and observe the regulative principles of devotional service with faith, attachment, and devotion, and thus becomes engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. This path is recommended in this chapter, and therefore, there is no doubt that devotional service is the only absolute path for self-realization, for the attainment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Absolute Truth, as described in this chapter, is recommended only up to the time one surrenders himself for self-realization. In other words, as long as one does not have the chance to associate with a pure devotee, the impersonal conception may be beneficial. In the impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth, one works without fruitive result, meditates, and cultivates knowledge to understand spirit and matter. This is necessary as long as one is not in the association of a pure devotee. Fortunately, if one develops directly a desire to engage in Krishna consciousness in pure devotional service, he does not need to undergo step-by-step improvements in spiritual realization. Devotional service, as described in the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, is more congenial. One need not bother about materials to keep body and soul together, because by the grace of the Lord, everything is carried out automatically. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of devotional service. Madgavirapi Gopala Swikuryat Kripaya Yadi tadaivasam payaha pitva hrishyayustat priyajanaha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur thus prays to Lord Gopal that if you kindly accept my words as if they were your cows, then my words can produce sweet milk and give pleasure to your pure devotees. So we pray like this whenever we try to say something about Krishna consciousness, because otherwise, without the empowerment of the Lord, one cannot spread Krishna consciousness. So Advaishta Sarva Bhutanam, to be a friend of all living entities, Maitraha, Karuna Evacha, to have mercy, Nirmama, to be selfless, Nirahankara, free from false ego, equal or this tolerant, we can say, also forgiving of happiness and distress, to be a yogi all the time, Santushta Satatam Yogi, because it's easy to be a yogi first thing in the morning. But by the time you take rest, usually we're completely covered with a film of Maya, accumulated over the course of the day, and we're demons again. So, yatatma dridhanishchayaha. This requires really firm faith and conviction, determination. Mayyarpita mano buddhir. And that in turn also requires that we offer our intelligence to the Lord and even our minds to the Lord. Modern science, even medical science, psychological science, isn't able to make much of a distinction between the mind and the intelligence. But Sankhya system of philosophy makes a very clear distinction. What is that distinction? Who can tell me? You know? He's not saying, I could tell he was spacing out. Mind is that entity within our subtle body that accepts things or rejects things. That's all the mind does. It's a toggle switch. Yes or no. I like this, I don't like this. That's what the mind does. And it makes decisions. Intelligence is that faculty we have which gives us information that we require to make that decision. So the intelligence is actually more subtle than the mind. Unfortunately, for most of us, the mind overpowers the intelligence. And so we're making all of our intelligences completely dedicated, like a dedicated computer. Our intelligence is completely dedicated to the mind. And what is the mind dedicated to? Sense gratification. So much so that nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yarindriya pritaya apranoti, as Rishabhadev says in the 5th canto. When we consider that we are this body, then whatever the body demands, that's what we are going to do. We're impelled, as it were, even to commit sinful things, very sinful things even, we will not hesitate to do because we're on the mental platform. Mental platform means the mind has overpowered the intelligence. So this is relevant for most of us, but a devotee is freed from this. His intelligence and his mind, they're both offered to Lord Krishna's lotus feet. Yomad bhakta same priya. And therefore Krishna says, somebody who's able to do this is dear to me. And yasman no dvijate lokan no dvijate chayaha. This is another way of looking at it, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described. Amani na manadena. You have to give respect to others, and you should not expect any honor from others. That's kind of the same thing. We're not agitated by the actions of others, and our own actions do not agitate others. Krishna says, if you do this, and if you're not impelled by harsha, what does harsh mean? Yeah, joy. What happens when we're happy? We become foolish and giddy, isn't it? We become just, frivolous and do stupid things. Impelled by joy and impelled by suffering, we also make the wrong decisions. So Krishna says here, harsha amarsha payodvegair. We want to become free from the trouble that our minds cause us through happiness, through distress, or through fear. What's an example of fear? What are we afraid of? Death? Yes. You can see it happens anytime. What else are we afraid of? Any more thoughtful persons want to say? I'll give you a hint. This is in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, early in the chapter. Fear. What does Krishna say about it? Vita raga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashrataha bahavo jnana tapasa putamad bhavamagata. He says we should become free from fear. And Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, what is the fear that we all suffer from? We're afraid of spiritual personality. That's why you may have noticed Srila Prabhupada's purport emphasizes the distinction between personal devotional service unto the Lord, Krishna. He has a name, and he has feelings too, and he has desires also. He has activities, he has friends and associates. He even has parents. He even has lovers. Maybe some of you are among those persons. So, and just don't know it. So we're afraid of this because our only frame of reference for personal interaction is pretty dysfunctional, isn't it? Every time we get involved with relationships in this world, it's always sour. Even in very nice families, everybody gets along. Just wait until the patriarch of the family dies, or whoever controls the money, and there's a big estate question that has to be dealt with. Even so-called people who love each other, they turn and they will face each other in court. Divorce also. There's so many things. Our experience of personal relationships in this world are not very sanguine. They're dysfunctional. That's why sometimes people, they're so sick of dealing with human beings, they just live alone and they get a dog, because dogs don't complain. And dogs are always loyal. No matter how badly you treat them, they'll always come home wagging their tail. So, we have to fix this. And human form of life is an opportunity to fix it. And Krishna is telling us that this is what you can become when you engage in devotional service. You can become freed from the fear of eternal personal relationships. Sambandha Gyan, it's called. What does Sambandha mean? Relationships. All kinds of relationships. Chiefly our relationship with God, but also including our relationship with His energy and including our relationships with His parts and parcels. If we have our mind fixed on Krishna, then all these things become harmonized. Bilvamangala Thakur put it very nicely when he said, only when your mind is fixed on Krishna, then you can give stern thought to philosophy, which you should be unsparing when it comes to philosophy. You should be a little bit critical. That's where it's okay to be critical. So stern thought in philosophy, you should give very sensitive thought in literature. That's where you have to let your emotions go a little bit. And ceaseless thought to your duties. Harsh thought in philosophy, sensitive thought in fine arts in general, we can expand it, and a ceaseless thought to your duty, your responsibilities and obligations in this world. People don't take this seriously. That's one of the many reasons that we have so many divorces and so many dysfunctional relationships, because if people had a greater sense of obligation, or dharma, we use the word in Sanskrit, then they would think twice. But anyway, so we're afraid of eternal spirituality because we don't know how to handle personality. Eternal personality, I mean to say. We don't really know how to handle it yet. But Krishna consciousness fixes that. This is what Krishna is hinting here. And mukto yasachame priyaha. This person is not only liberated, this person is very dear to me. Anapeksha. He doesn't, he's neutral. He doesn't have any friends. He doesn't have any foes. He's on nobody's side. Once I went to a community, and in this community, half of them were Indians and half of them were Westerners, and half of them were somewhere in between. Actually, the community was 90% Gujarati And then the other party was the non-Gujarati Indians. And then the other party were the Western people, and all of them wanted me to join their party alone. I didn't want to join any parties. I wanted to be anapeksha. So, I didn't really want to get into partisan politics, but therefore all the parties turned against me. This is the world that we live in. This is how it is. Anyway, so anapeksha means to be neutral, because we have no selfish agenda. We have no hetu, as Bhagavatam 1st Canto 2nd chapter puts it. Ahaituki. If our love is like that, then we don't have to worry about these things. And Krishna's suggesting here subtly that this is what happens when you develop love for him. So, anapeksha shuchi. What does shuchi mean? Yes. What's the opposite of shuchi? Muchi. Dirty. So, we especially in the West, because I just came from Sacramento, my God, it's so clean there, isn't it? It's amazing. After coming from India, I was like trying to figure out what happened to this place. It's so clean here. He told me that you can even drink the tap water in Sacramento or Folsom. I don't know if that's true, but maybe the American River is still relatively pristine. You can't do that in Yamuna. When I first went to Yamuna River and dove deep into the water in 1978, were you there then, Vaisheshika? Mayapur Festival. We had the 747 jet that we rented, and I dove deep into the middle of the Yamuna, and it was freezing cold down there. Because, I'm being an American, I know how to swim. I always like to pick on Indians, they don't swim. Even in Chennai, they live on Marina Beach, but they don't swim. So, it was no problem for me. And in those days, of course, the only problem, you had to watch out for turtles. Now all the turtles are dead. And there's hardly anything can grow along the bank of the Yamuna also. A few years ago, I went to Gokula. Anyone been to Gokula? Raise your hand. Brahmanda Ghat in Gokula. Famous movie, Srila Prabhupada taking his bath there. So I went there to do the same with that movie in mind. And, there was a wall, there was a one bank to the other, it was covered with soap suds 2 feet high, blanket, all the way upstream, all the way downstream. Just a river of soap suds coming out of whatever, well, as one author put it, after the Yamuna reaches Delhi, well, first of all, only about 10% of the Yamuna water reaches Delhi. Before that, they break it off into Himachal Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh for farming, which is laudable. But that 10% of the Yamuna which reaches Delhi, all of it is processed before it's returned to the Yamuna basin. It's processed through a factory or through a human being. So nowadays, if you try, anyway, I was saying, in 1978, I was diving deep and gulping down mouthfuls of water, one after another, with no problem at all. Now, if you try that, you will definitely end up in, Apollo Max Hospital. So, anyway, shuchi means externally clean is okay. That's what we were mentioning. That's what you immediately perceive in Sacramento. But internally clean, people don't think about that so much because it's a little bit harder. When I first moved to Vrindavan some 20-something years ago, I asked my godbrother Gopi Purana Dana that, how do you deal with this? Because everywhere you look, there's garbage and there's, pollution and the construction dust and, noise and, stool and these black nadis full of what and pigs, crusty pigs running up and down those things and and I asked him, how do you tolerate it? He said, well, it's you have to appreciate that there's a different standard of cleanliness here. If you walk into any bank in America, everything is spiffy, clean, everything's on time, everything is exact, precise, right? But that's just external. Inside, what's on the people's minds? What's in their hearts? What are they trying to do with you and your money? In Vrindavan, it's very different. It's almost the opposite. Externally, everything is very, gross. and repulsive, but inside you'll find a sweetness and a purity and an innocence of character that cannot be found anywhere else. So that's Shuchi. Anapeksha Shuchir Daksha means to be expert. We were talking about Gopal Krishna Maharaj, expert. Everything he did is expert. You know how many temples he built in Delhi? He built them. How many? 18. And these are not preaching centers. They're not little houses that have been rented. These are full-size temples with Radha Krishna deities. Half of them are built from scratch. That's expert. And his disciple, Radha Golokananda Maharaj, I should also mention, used to be called Raghav Pandit. He's one who's helping, right-hand man. Anyway, so, Daksha. Anapeksha Shutir Daksha. Yeah. Udasin. Udasin means to be a little detached. You have to be a little bit detached. Not in an impersonal way, not in an offensive or antisocial way, but to perceive Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukha Doshano Darshanam, as Krishna says elsewhere in the Gita. To perceive what is the real situation here in this world. It should foster a healthy sense of detachment. Mundak Upanishad tells us, Parikshya Lokan Karmachitan Brahmano Nirvedam Ayan Nastya Krita Kritena. What does that mean? Having surveyed all possible avenues that life offers, a broad-minded person, a brahmana, he'll think, what is the point of adding more karma to karma? What is the point of subtracting karma from karma? I just end up with karma, or vikarma, worse still. So what happens to that person? We all know the second half of the verse, but you don't know it yet. Tad vijnanartham eva vigachet samit, what is that? Samit pani shrotriyam brahmanishtam. If you have come to that healthy sense of udasinatva, or detachment, a little bit separate, keeping yourself aloof from material affairs, then you are ready to take to spiritual life. It does require this. All right, so then what else does he say? Gata vyathaha. This is another thing. Prabhupada translates it here as free from all distress, vyatha. Sarvarambha parityagi. Usually if people put their time and attention into some project, they get very attached, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, they don't want to sign it over to, say, ISKCON or something, right? You put so much blood, sweat, and tears into something, it's like raising a child. Remember Daksha Maharaj? No, was it Daksha? And Narad Muni came to preach to his children, no? Daksha hai, no? So, 10,000 sons, first class, he raised them to be. How difficult is that, parents? To raise your kids to be a first class kid. And then imagine some Hare Krishna devotee comes and just completely pollutes his mind with spirituality and he wants to join the ashram. That's the worst thing that can happen. There's someone sitting in this room who's experienced this already. The parents freak out. He's joining the ashram. It's a fate worse than death. So gatavyatha and sarvarambha parityagi. But in all endeavors, we have to be detached because you have no control over it. Yeah, you really don't have control over anything. Everyone, please raise your hand. I'd like to take a quick survey. Raise your hand if so far your life has turned out exactly as you expected and planned. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. It's always different than we expect. Sometimes it's better. Often it's not. Maybe most of the time it's not. Things happen to us. I mean, especially here, if you live, anything can happen. So, sarvarambha parityagi. And then Krishna concludes here. Yomad Bhakta Same Priya. This is my devotee, he is very dear to me. Yo na hrisheti na dveshti. Does this sound familiar? Na hrisheti na dveshti. Have we heard these kinds of things before? Yeah, if you notice, if you're reading carefully, you'll see Krishna says the same things over and over and over and over and over again in just slightly different ways, not only in Bhagavad Gita, but throughout the entire gamut of Vedic literature. And here's another one. Nashochiti nakangshati. This is a direct quote from chapter 18, is it not? So, shubha shubha parityagi, same thing, whether it's auspicious or inauspicious. What's an example? We were reading this morning, Mother Yashoda. If she can see the face of Krishna, her son, then she doesn't mind to stay in a very hellish environment. But if she cannot see her son's smiling lotus face, which Bilvamangala Thakur describes to be as beautiful as a spotless blue lotus, and made all the more beautiful by little drops of perspiration, which look like diamonds on this sapphire sheet. Why is he perspiring? Because he's playing ball with his friends. Kandu krida vigaladagara sweda mugdhanana shri kaishchit drishta kuvalayadala shamala kobi bala prichati evam patipati yao vyakulananda patni tire tapanato hitoho krishnam anveshayanti. Mother Yashoda is anxiously wandering up and down the bank of the Yamuna. Anybody she sees, she's inquiring from them in the madness of her ecstasy. Have you seen this boy? Little, very cute boy, dark blue, like the color of a fresh lotus flower, and with little beads of sweat like diamonds on his forehead. And he was playing ball with his friends. I don't know where he is. Have you seen him? She's a highly agitated state. Mother Yashoda is walking up and down the banks of the Yamuna asking like this. How do we get on this topic? Yes. So as long as she can see him, she's fine. If she cannot see him, she becomes completely agitated. This is Krishna consciousness. I saw written on the wall, for those of you who speak Hindi, some witty person wrote, "Chinta mat kar, chintana kijiye." Don't be in anxiety about your material life. Just meditate on Krishna. It's a play on words. So, this is the idea. Bhaktiman yasame priya. This person who is like this, he's very dear to me. Samashatrau cha mitrecha tatamanapamanyoho. How many times in Bhagavad Gita do we find these words? Anybody can tell me? Tatamanapamanyoho. To be, whether somebody praises you or blames you, it's the same thing. It means nothing to a devotee. Because he knows. Actually, Krishna, therefore, even in the 11th canto, Krishna says you shouldn't praise people and you should not vilify them either. They're equally meaningless. We're not in a position to judge anything even. But if you praise somebody's material nature and characteristics, then that generally encourages them in their false ego, doesn't it? And if you criticize somebody's material nature and his activities that extend from that nature, what can he can't do anything about it. That's his nature. So it just discourages him. So you should not praise people and you should not criticize them either. Vishvam ekatmakam pashyan prakritya purushena cha. Instead, you should see this whole universe harmoniously working together as the interplay of two things, Purusha and Prakriti. What does that mean? Purusha and Prakriti. Yeah, you can say nature and man. Somebody says, what else? The Supreme Lord and his energies. Okay, anything else? Ashraya, Vishaya. These are all correct answers. Tamal Krishna Goswami used to have a ring with a little, somebody gave him a ring, that yin-yang symbol. You've seen it? So he showed me this ring one day and he said, what is it? I, being an impersonalist, I told him, Achintya Bheda Bheda? And he just, no. He said, Radha Krishna. So that's in the ultimate state. This Purusha Prakriti means Kiski Prakriti, Krishna ki. Yes, so Purusha and Prakriti. We should see this. We should see everything happening as the energy of the Lord, and we should engage everything in the service of the Lord, and then we will join the Lord, just as Gopal Krishna Maharaj has done. So,
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Sorry about that. Just need to make an announcement. If you parked your car in the word market, your car will be towed away because they have come twice already. Word market. If you parked your car, it would be towed away. Please remove it immediately. Thank you. Word market. Thank you. Sorry about that.
if you are freed from these dualities, then you can be peaceful all the time. And then na shochiti na kangshati. And then if you're freed from these dualities, you'll not be envious of anyone. You'll be a kind friend to everyone, as we heard first thing. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitra. Karuna evacha. So, samashatrau cha mitrecha tathamana pamanayoho shitoshna sukhadukkeshu samasanga vivarjitaha. We came from Chennai a week or two ago, and it was 40-something degrees centigrade in Chennai. And then we came to Sacramento, and it just seems like it's freezing cold here for me. I think it's unseasonably cold even for you, right? Okay, so then I'm vindicated. But tulya ninda stutir mauni sama sangha vivarjita. This is another thing, sorry. Sama sangha vivarjita. We're freed from, we're equal in either this, what does it say here? Sukha and dukkha. We're sama. Peaceful. Same. No problem. And sangha vivarjita means we're freed from the kind of association that will degrade us. It does not mean that we're freed from Vaishnava Sangha. We should not be freed from Satsanga. We should be hankering always for that Satsanga, because in fact that Satsanga is the only thing that allows us to become freed from Asatsanga. You have to have Sangha. You have to have it. You cannot avoid it. So Krishna is talking about freedom from mundane, contaminating association. Tulya nindastu tirmauni. We've already been here. Even in this very short passage, Krishna has already mentioned as much with the words tatha manapamaniyo ityadi. They're the same. If somebody is vilifying you, blaspheming you, it's okay. If somebody is praising you, also you don't get involved. Mauni, silent. Unless there's a need to speak, one should not speak. Unless there's a real need to speak, one should not speak. I was in Hyderabad once, and we went to one Venkateshwara temple there. So I was chatting with the pujari, and he just mentioned in the course of the conversation one shloka, very nice shloka. You heard this before? He said, Manas yekam, vachas yekam, karmani yekam, mahatmanaha. This is so simple Sanskrit, some of you already understand it. Manas yanyam, vachas yanyam, karmani yanyam, duratmanaha. It means if someone is a broad-minded, evolved person, then for that person, what he speaks, what he does, and what he thinks, they're all the same thing. And if somebody is a rascal, what do you call this? Duratmanaha, cripple-minded person, then he's thinking one thing, he's speaking something else, and he's doing a third thing. So you can apply this to your own life and you judge accordingly what you need to do. So here Krishna kind of hints at this when he says, tulya nindas tutirmauni and santushto yena kena chitaha. Whatever happens, he's happy. Santushti. If only people had this. This is the worst thing for you. No, it's the best thing for us. It's the worst thing for these big corporations who are trying to sell you a new cell phone every 2 months. Or, there are people in this country, they just feel like they're not a complete human being unless they have a new car every year. right? What's that doing to our environment? What's that doing to the economy even? What's it doing to you? You see? Santushti, be satisfied with what you really need. Ishavasyam idam sarvam, all this stuff that you see around you, Ishopanishad tells us, kiska hai? Ishavasyam, this is all suitable to be enjoyed by Isha only. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Yet kinchit jagatyam jagata, anything that is within this universe, tena tyaktena bunjitha magrahakasya swidhanam. You have what you need. Our needs and our wants, these are two different things, isn't it? Usually. What we need maybe 6 feet vertical space, maybe 3 feet to be liberal, or because it's America, 4 feet. That's what we need. And 5-6 chapatis if you're a South Indian, you can have your dosha instead. But, that's what, and a shelter over your head, warmth, these simple things. This is what we need. What we want, oh my God, there's no end to it, isn't it? That's described in chapter 16 at some length. So, santushto yena kena chitta. The world would be such a nice place if people were just satisfied, but the greedy ones, that means to say the more demoniac amongst us, they can't handle that. They cannot tolerate that. They've got to keep you dissatisfied, because what happens if they keep you dissatisfied? Then they keep exploiting your money. That's how they thrive, by throttling you spiritually. And they know who they are. I hope you don't work for them, but anyway. The nature is there. We all have it in greater or lesser degrees. So Krishna is indicating what is saintly nature. And aniketa sthiramatir. Aniketa means he's not even attached to house and home. Very comfy situation. Very hard to give this up. Srila Prabhupada even, we take that he was already liberated, but he said that when he kept having a recurring dream, his spiritual master came and was beckoning him to take sannyas. He discussed it with his godbrothers. They all affirmed, yes, you should take sannyas. And Prabhupada said, I was horrified. How am I going to do this? Anyway, so aniketa sthiramatir, because the mind is fixed in Krishna consciousness and dedication to Krishna consciousness, a person can actually embrace things that are even ordinarily difficult to embrace if it's pleasing to Krishna. That we've already read. When something is pleasing to Krishna, it's pleasing to me. When something is displeasing to Krishna, it's pleasing to me. Our position in the material world is usually the opposite of that. If it pleases me, then it must be pleasing to Krishna. So, bhakti man me priyo naraha. Thus, such a person, he is full of bhakti and he's very dear to me. Now he concludes, yetu dharmyamritamidam yathoktam paryupasate shradhana matparama bhaktas teyativa me priyaha. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Ativa me priya. Ati means extremely so. So this path of dharma, it is amrita, it is deathless. If you tread this path of dharma as a human being, you don't have to worry about the time of death, because you're deathless by this path of Krishna consciousness. Yathoktam, as I've stated, we have to make sure that the path that we're treading is actually the one that Krishna is describing in these verses of Bhagavad Gita. And paryupasate, when we worship him, shraddhana, with faith, and matpadama, making him the supreme goal, then he says, this person, this bhakta, is the most dear to me. That's the concluding verse of this chapter. Matpadama. Actually, there are two things. And we get some idea of how glorious are the Vrajavasis, those persons who are Krishna's eternal associates in the spiritual world, and even here in Goloka, they come when he comes. Matpadama, Krishna is describing the best of the devotees in this verse, those who have made him their supreme concern. But for the gopis and the other Vrajavasis in Goloka, Krishna is their exclusive concern. Not their supreme concern, their only concern. That's not so easy to do. So these are just a few qualities that Krishna says, and Prabhupada has explained them very nicely in his purport. And we can try to take advantage of these instructions from Bhagavad Gita, but as Prabhupada has already hinted also in his purport, that this knowledge really becomes activated at what point? Anybody who's listening carefully, maybe you can say something. Prabhupada writes, in this chapter it is decided that through good association one develops attachment for pure devotional service and thereby accepts a bona fide spiritual master, and from him begins to hear and chant and observe the regulative principles of devotional service with faith, attachment, and devotion, and thus becomes engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. This path is recommended. So impersonalism can help us if we have no clue as to bhakti, as to what bhakti is. And theoretical understanding of bhakti, that can also help us. But when we come in contact with a pure devotee, when we're personally guided by a bona fide spiritual master, that's when we really begin to make advancement, practically speaking. We can say this with confidence. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur does say this with confidence. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado. Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. That when we please a bona fide spiritual master, you can take it for granted. You're pleasing Krishna. It's automatic. And if you displease the spiritual master, gati kutopi, how are you going to attain your goal? So, therefore we should very resolutely, very ardently, and very sincerely take shelter of our bona fide spiritual master. Now we have two kinds of association. Who can tell me what those are? Two kinds of association with one's spiritual master. Vani, Vapu. Vani means the eternal association. There is an aspect of our spiritual master that is eternal, and that is his Vani, his teachings, his instructions, his words. And as long as we have the physical association of the spiritual master, then we can also take shelter of that personal association. We can get direct guidance from him, questions answered from him, personal seva we can do, which is also very necessary. But it's understood. We said in the beginning, everything in this world is temporary, including the body of the spiritual master. So he disappears. And at that point, we're tested, actually. How much have you taken advantage of that Vapu Sangha to really enter into the Vani? Because that's all we have now. So this is something that all of Prabhupada's disciples have been through. If you've lost your spiritual master, they know that feeling. And but I remember that we didn't actually think that Prabhupada would ever leave, because we saw on a daily basis that Srila Prabhupada was breaking all physical laws, as it were. I mean, he was doing impossible things every day. So, it's just what's the big deal if you add another impossible thing like not dying? We actually, in 1977, I felt like this. Of course, I was young. Firbi, Prabhupada had such potency that, this is our assumption. So it was, we were all devastated when Prabhupada disappeared, as we all must. And that's painful. But if we look through Srila Prabhupada's instructions about this, we can see that he never expresses that he feels the separation of his spiritual master. Vaisheshika Prabhu, do you know of any such quote from Srila Prabhupada that he's lamenting the absence of his spiritual master? Maybe a few sentences here and there. But on the whole, I feel that the gist of his instructions about his separation from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur instead emphasize the instructions that he's received and his obligation to fulfill that mission. So when the spiritual master departs, then this is what the disciple has to do. And there's that famous section of the 4th canto, King Malayadhwaja, when he disappeared from this world and his wife was lamenting and Prabhupada writes it in purport after purport after purport in that particular passage in the 4th canto, that in the absence of the spiritual master, the disciple must remain like a chaste wife and serve his words and follow his, carry out his mission. And now some of them have to represent him as well. So this is just the eternal order. This is the eternal system of Guru Parampara. So it's an unfortunate, in some sense unfortunate, in other sense it's just a natural course, because jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur. If you've taken birth, you're going to die, zurur. And what is the next line? Dhruvam janma mritasya cha. If you're dead, don't worry about it. You're going to be born somewhere, hopefully Vaikuntha, Goloka. So, in this way, we have to just carry on. So I am going to stop here. Does anybody have any questions or any comments? How long do we go until? 5. Okay, so we have good time for anything else. Yes?
So when you said that... Hare Krishna. So when you said that Prabhupada disappeared, you meant that the soul left the body?
Yeah, the body was gone.
The body was gone?
Yeah. I mean, the body was no longer capable of sustaining life, right? That's called death. So
the soul leaves first and then the cremation is done to the body?
yes.
Right?
Yes. Except that in the case of great saintly persons, like Gopal Krishna Maharaj, just like his guru before him, we don't cremate that body. We put that body into the earth to purify the earth.
Oh.
Because tirti, what is that? Tirti kurvanti tirtani, tirta bhuta swayam vibho. A saintly person is so pure that wherever he goes, it's turned into a tirtha. I was worried in the last few days that Maharaj's position is not looking very good. Maybe he should just come back to Vrindavan. Then we got the message last night. And anyway, I'm thinking that, there's no difference. It doesn't make any difference. Now Dehradun has become a tirtha because it's the tirthasthali of his departure. So with someone who's so deeply absorbed and so completely immersed in transcendental duality and dedication, lifelong, unwavering dedication to the mission of the spiritual master, everything that he did, everywhere he went, everyone he saw, every word he spoke, was only meant to please Srila Prabhupada. So that person, anywhere he goes, anywhere his lotus feet touch on this earth, Krishna preshtaya bhutale, this becomes a holy tirtha. Yeah, that's why we don't cremate saintly persons, we bury them. Okay, that's called samadhi.
Samadhi.
Anybody here from Sri Perumbudur? No, not so many Tamils. One, okay. So that's famous as the place where Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated. What we don't know is that that's also the place where Ramanujacharya eternally stays in his Sanctity, they call it. Same thing, Samadhi Mandir. I've seen him. Okay. Anything else, Vaisheshika Prabhu, you want to say a few words? Add something, please.
The qualities that are being described at the end of the 12th chapter that you were illustrating for us so clearly, how do they arise within the ordinary person who's affected by the 3 modes of material nature? And how can an individual see for him or herself that that's happening?
Yeah, very good. I should have emphasized this. Shuddhyanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. By taking shelter of the Lord through his representative, his pure devotee, and being trained in this immortal process of bhakti, as Krishna has described it to some degree in the verses that we've heard tonight, then one becomes transcendental. Nirguna, Harir hi nirguna sakshat. Just as Krishna is beyond the material coverings, so this Devotional service is actually, it's a function of the spiritual world. It has nothing to do with this material world. We have only to plug into that process, and then we ourselves also have nothing anymore to do with this material world. We become thoroughly transcendental. The problem is that in the beginning we don't have that faith. We feel that, I have some intrinsic identity or function in this material world forever, and if I just check out of things here, then I will cease to exist. That's our faith at the present moment. But it's not so. We actually, in devotional service, we recognize the eternal relevance of all things in this world. But it must be connected to Krishna. Nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yukta vairagyam uchyate. That is called proper renunciation. So I mentioned this briefly in regards to aniketa. It doesn't mean necessarily that you have no place to stay or that you're, what was the word he used? I forget just now, but yeah, that's also, but anyway, so just by rendering devotional service, this is the take-home message here. Simply by rendering devotional service, Prabhupada has also explained this in his purport, you automatically come to this transcendental platform. And as he concludes, it's very nicely stated here, that devotional service, as described in the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, is more congenial than impersonal realization. One need not bother about materials to keep body and soul together, because by the grace of the Lord, everything is carried out automatically. Automatically. You have to do nothing except devotional service, and everything will be taken care of. Now, somebody should have a doubt about this. Please raise your hand if you do. Nobody? Okay, what's your doubt?
I just have a question. Like, how do you strictly define devotional service?
Yes, that should be clear. Yeah, we want to know, what is this? It doesn't mean you give up your house, you quit your job, it doesn't mean you close all accounts and move to a Himalayan cave and just chant Hare Krishna forever, or try, because you will fail by that process. Rather, it means that whatever situation you're in, you engage that in Krishna service under the guidance of such a bona fide spiritual master as Gopal Krishna Maharaj or anyone else who has these qualifications that Krishna is mentioning here in the end of Bhagavad Gita. Somebody who has become dear to Krishna by his own devotion. And the short answer to Vaisheshika Prabhu's question is, how does that transpire? How do we make that happen? You just perform devotional service. Simple process that Srila Prabhupada gave. Anyone can do it. You chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you hear from Bhagavad Gita as we're doing tonight, you take Krishna's prasadam, you worship the deity, you associate with devotees, you stay or come into this holy place and take advantage of the good association. And association is an underlined word here, because that's 90% of our advancement. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra, what is it? Sarva Shastra koi, lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoy. Every perfection will come from association. If in a good association, that's how we engage in devotional service. Without that good association, we will not be able to engage properly in devotional service. That's why I told you, Himalayan cave program will not work. You need the protection of the devotees' association. This is so true that in the 17th century, one poet, he wrote a very nice commentary on a Braj Bhasha work. He says, in the beginning, if we have a little sapling, you have to tie a fence around it, especially in Vrindavan, where I live. I was in Chaitanya Vihar Phase 2. We used to live there. And some Diliwali, who they came to stay in Vrindavan, they were clueless about what it means to live in Vrindavan. They had their nice new home. We saw them, they do a big doom-dam for their housewarming. And then, they put a nice little garden out front with all gendas. Very, very pretty, little picket white fence, everything. But then they left, and when they came home in the evening, everything was eaten up. Goats. So, he says in the beginning we have to fence a little pauda, little tree, to keep it from a little kid. Baby goat is called a kid in English. We don't know that. We think baby humans are called kids. Just like bacche, right? Hindi mein bacche kya hain? Bacche. Kids. But actually it means baby cows, right? Calves. Kids are so cute that they're like little calves. Anybody here from southern Andhra Pradesh? Punganur, you know Punganur cows? Yeah, tiny, tiny little cows. They're like, they call them pet cows. You can keep them in your house even. They're not bigger than dogs. They're totally cute, these little things. So I was trying to bring some to Vrindavan, but then I found out that they're very difficult to take care of. They're extremely sensitive. And that Vrindavan environment is so harsh it will kill them. So yeah, anyway, little kids, little goats, they can eat up anything. So you have to carefully protect it. What is that fencing that you put around such a small sapling? That is devotional association with saintly persons. And then he gives the example. We took this little plant, we put a fence around it, we continued to water it very carefully. What is that watering process? Following the process of Krishna consciousness as we've described. And hote, what happens? The thing grows into a massive tree. It's such a big tree with such a thick, strong trunk after some years that the same little thing that we were afraid of a little goat coming to eat it, now you can confidently tie a massive war elephant or two to this thing, and they're not going anywhere. You see? This is the power of devotional association. So the short answer to the question, how do we actually attain these qualities? You keep good association with devotees. Why? Because they will teach you how to perform devotional service. And by performing this devotional service under proper guidance, then you will also make advancement. We will become like those trees. Other people will come and take shelter of us. So, evam parampara praptam. Srila Prabhupada did this. Before him, his Guru Maharaj did this. Gopal Krishna Maharaj did this. It keeps going on like this. This is only natural. And this is the eternal, actually, adventure of Krishna consciousness. We have no aspirations in this world. We just want to, what does Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, we're not poets, we're not logicians, we're not great, capitalists. We are simply the servants of the shoes of the feet of Hari's servants. See? So somebody who can make this dedication in this short human form of life while it lasts, that person is definitely going back to Godhead. And we have the example of Gopal Krishna Maharaj before us. All these qualities, I chose these verses because I was thinking about him. Such a wonderful personality, such a shining example of pure devotional service. Never wavered, never had any problem, never, his determination was stupendous. And so much service he did, especially for ISKCON India, but for the entirety of ISKCON as well. Great, glorious example we've now before us, and we have to try to follow suit, but we know how to follow suit. They've left the boat on this side, right? The example is given that when the great souls they cross the ocean of material existence, but somehow or other, this is such a mystical process that the boat doesn't go over there. The boat stays here for us. And that is this Krishna consciousness. Let us all bow down to the soft lotus feet of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thank him for giving us these wonderful books that he stayed up all night while we all slept in order to produce, so that even in 2024, in Silicon Valley, which didn't exist in the 1970s, we could be sitting here today and taking advantage of these instructions. That is Vani. That is the Vani. That is the power of this Vani. So for a short time, the saints come, they'll also go. That's only natural. Jata sihitru maktru. That is the Vapu. But the Vani is the eternal thing, and we should wholeheartedly embrace this Vani. And of course, the famous couplet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Janma sartha kori karo parupakar. First you make your own life perfect, then you can actually do something for others. I'm kind of rambling now. Is it satisfying your question? Yeah. Please say more.
Well, I have another question.
Okay.
Well, you had asked earlier about, I think you called me out by name and said such and such. Can you think of a time in which Prabhupada described his separation from his spiritual master as being, I forget the word you used.
Painful.
Painful. And I could think of a time, so I wanted you to comment on it. And that is a poem he wrote.
In 1959.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, the translation of the refrain is, on this day of your separation, I'm utterly despondent. And he is thinking back to the ways in which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur were held forth, and the ways that he inspired everyone. And now he was missing that, and he felt that the mission had been let down, or that some of the followers had let down the mission. So I was wondering if you could say something about that.
Well, this is a very difficult question. This puts me in a hard spot because, Srila Prabhupada in that particular poem was particularly lamenting the lack of commitment among his godbrothers and the lack of unified dedication to fulfilling their spiritual master's clear order. So, we want to draw some parallels to the present day so that we can follow in his footsteps, or at least understand the relevance of those sentiments that he expressed. But it's a little difficult because we don't want to criticize anyone. Anyway, let me answer this by way of analogy. We were discussing initiation a few days ago, and how long did Srila Prabhupada wait before he took initiation? Who can tell me? Over a decade. At what point did Srila Prabhupada become convinced that he had found his spiritual master in the person of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? When did that happen? At the first meeting, exactly, in the first meeting. Now this is a problem, isn't it? If you're convinced, 11 years earlier that this person is your guru, you should surrender your life to him, why did he wait? Who has some answers to this? I want to hear some sagacious input on this point. Anybody have some thoughts? I can't say that I understand Srila Prabhupada's activities, and in a similar way I have to admit that I don't really want to try to interpret that poem that you've mentioned. But Tamal Krishna Goswami suggested, and I don't know who would know better than him, that Srila Prabhupada is a Nitya Siddha, and more specifically as an Acharya for the whole world. He wanted to demonstrate to us just how serious that commitment is. When someone takes initiation, you really have to put a lot of work into that, and you have to put a lot of thought into it also, and in prayer as well. What we see is that people take initiation for all the wrong reasons. I like the way he sings. He's from the same caste as me. I mean, just so many crazies. All my friends are taking initiation from him. I got to join the club. Or all the kids are doing it. Let me join. Just everything wrong. Everything we do should be based in Srila Prabhupada's books. What else is the meaning of this slogan? Books are the basis. Basis of what? How better can we translate Vyasadev's own assertion, Shastra Yonitvat? Everything comes from Shastra. Srila Prabhupada intended us to take our major inspiration and direction from what he wrote in his books. That's why he said that I'll never die. I will live on in these books. The books are the basis. So, I don't really want to speculate on why Prabhupada felt that way, but maybe this is a bald speculation that, Prabhupada was trying to exhibit the sentiments of, ordinary conditioned souls like ourselves. And we do feel bewildered. We do feel bereft, we feel forlorn and at sea without a boat. From time to time, it happens to us. So maybe Srila Prabhupada was just, trying to show us and how he would take shelter, and certainly he did. But I can't say I know. I really don't have a ready answer for that, other than this. Is it satisfactory?
Well, just seeing you, I feel fully satisfied.
Hare
At the
Krishna.
speaker hearing your class. Thank you very much for making your way around the world and bringing the Vrindavan atmosphere, but more importantly, the contents of your heart, which are filled with the Vrindavan atmosphere and Srila Prabhupada's teachings and your many years of dedication. We feel purified just by seeing you. And we're very grateful for you coming here.
Can you all please give me your blessings that maybe I can also become Krishna conscious someday, especially Vaisheshika Prabhu, please. Just be kind to me.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Panchatattva, Shri Radhamana Mohan, Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadeva, if you so desire, please bless us with Sri Mukunda Datta Prabhu's association, and please impel him to come back again and again to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Thank you for considering our request.
Hare
Om
Krishna.
Tat Sat. Everyone who agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Go Premanande Haribo. Shri Mukunda Datta Prabhu Ki Jai. So
He always says in whole or in part. I like that.
Prabhu, well, the devotees who are present, if you haven't been present for one of Mukunda Datta Prabhu's kirtans, then perhaps even more than half your life is wasted. In the next few minutes, if we arrange the room properly, the ladies can go on that side, and men can stay on this side, and we'll give Sri Mukunda Datta Prabhu a microphone and beg him to sing the evening artik. Then maybe we can make some advancement in devotional service. So let's take a minute and a half to move all of the asanas back into their place, and we'll get ready for the artik, which will start in 1 minute. Thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Close to ISKCON.
Got it.
But this time I went to Vrindavan for the first time. I loved the bhakti of the people.
Of course.
So I'm thinking of moving back to India. And Vrindavan would be the place.
Yeah.
But where would I stay? Like how will I...
We can talk about it a little later. You're going to be here for the rest of the weekend. So we can talk later. Now we have to do this.
I know we do this.
Yeah.
I was happy.
If you want to, do you want to just sing, or you want
I don't like the Martian thing.
You don't like the Martian thing? It's not a Martian thing, it's a Madonna thing. Otherwise, how are you going to
I'm just going to hold
use
it, no?
this and play the drum?
Oh, you want me to play my drum? That's
That's
pretty
up to
hard.
you.
I don't play drums much anymore. So.
Okay, that's all right then.
Yeah, I can hold it
Okay, sounds good.
with your permission.
We have bona fide drummers here.
That's right. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Madhavaya Keshaya Namah Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madan Mohan Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita Shri Ram Sayadana Bhakta Raghunath Shri Vapu Bala Bhakta Dasa Raghunath Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jai Sachidananda Jai Sachidananda Jai Jai Sachidananda Jai Sachidananda Jai Sachidananda Jai Sachidananda Jai Jai Sachidananda Gaura Hare Jai Gaura Hare Gaura Hare Jai Jai Sachidananda Gaura Hare Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Jai Gurudev 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 Jai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Gaura Premanande Jai Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Prabhupada Ashtotar Jata Shri Srimad Shila Bhai Chanararinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Shila Thakur Haridas Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Rani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Samsthapak Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Go Premanande All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Jai Srila Prabhupada Namaste Narasimhaya Prahlad Lad Dayine Hiranyakashi Purvaksha Shilatanka Nakhalaye Bahin Nrsimho, Hridaye Nrsimho. Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapatye. Dalita Hiranyakashipo Tanu Bringa Keshatrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. We're glad to see such a wonderful turnout of devotees today. We'd first like to thank His Grace Mukunda Datta Prabhu for visiting ISV. Not only did he give a wonderful class today, but he has been giving classes throughout this week at various devotees' homes, and we're very graced by his presence, especially his lecture and Kirtan today. Thank you, Prabhu. So, in the audience today, do we have any newcomers who are visiting ISV for the first time? Hare Krishna, thank you. Welcome. Welcome. We have several newcomers here today, and to welcome them all, we'll chant together, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We also have a wide online audience who joined us, and we'd like to thank Charanimai Prabhu for allowing them to participate, and also thank the online audience. We have 3 sponsors for today's feast, 2 of whom won't be joining us on the stage, but we will still acknowledge them. The first is Balimadan Prabhu and Ananda Mataji, who are sponsoring in the memory and honor of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. We also have one more anonymous donor who is sponsoring in the honor of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Our third sponsor is Srinivas Prabhu, who is sponsoring on the occasion of his daughter Samhita's birthday. Srinivas Prabhu and Samhita, are you here? Yeah, she's coming up.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I would first like to thank her Sunday school teachers for inculcating valuable lessons for her. I would also request all the Vaishnavas here to pray for her progress in her spiritual life.
Thank you so much. We have a couple announcements about programs that are happening next week. So the first is we have Little Krishna Kids Ramayan Festival, which is happening on May 11th in Fremont. There are flyers outside with all of the information, and if you're on our email list, we will send the information there as well. But this is a great opportunity to come and watch all the kids who have been working on their presentations and watching them pour their love into this process of Krishna consciousness. So that will be happening on May 11th. We also have on the same day a Bhakti Farms trip to Carmel Valley, where we will be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Gayatri and Malati, who are our cows. And there will be a bus that's taking devotees to go there as well. That information, you can reach out to Radha Kripa Prabhu. He'll be able to provide to you. And there will be also information sent out through the email. Those are for next week, Saturday, May 11th. Now, for today, after 7 p.m., after we wrap up Prasadam, we'll be having a special program which we request you to stay back for. First, we will be honoring His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj at 7 p.m. with a Pushpanjali, followed by a Guru Puja. At 7:15, Vaisheshika Prabhu will lead the Jaya Nilo Prema Dana prayers, followed by a glorification of Maharaj. And then we will have further glorification by Maharaj by other devotees. So he sincerely requests you to stay back so we can honor His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj.
If you can stay for the 7 o'clock, it'll be very important, because remembering the Vaishnav, especially one who gave his entire life for spreading Krishna consciousness, is the most beneficial of all practices. And there's a way in which oftentimes, while we're busy in our lives, we may appreciate devotees, but you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And there's a way in which when we remember the devotees who have just left, then their lives come into full focus for us. And by remembering them and seeing their standard of devotional service, we can attempt to follow in their footsteps. So everyone's welcome if you'd like to be here at 7. We look forward to seeing you. And to all the devotees here at ISV, we're very fortunate because this was one of the places that His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj came regularly. And we'll say more later. after 7. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
That was just a very nectarian prelude to all the glorification that's to come at 7 p.m. So we look forward to seeing you there. And part of that will be if a few devotees can assist to stay back and clean for the after the prasadam. That'll help us set up faster and make more of our time. So we'd be very grateful if you can participate. Now we will have prasadam prayers, and prasadam will be served outside. We do have the prasadam cooks to be announced as well by Shreya.
Hare Krishna. The prasadam was led by Neelachal Chandra Mataji along with Mrinula Mataji, Abhijit Prabhu, Mansi Mataji, Devi Kumari Mataji, Shruti Mataji, Purna Mataji, Shutra Malika Das, Akash Prabhu, Mahendra Prabhu, Abhay, Didya Drishti Prabhu, Mayank Prabhu, Tadya Se Prabhu, Dhiti Mataji, Ananda Mataji, Shali Mataji, Somya Mataji, Tarini Mataji, Kanika Mataji, Yashoda Priya Devi Dasi, Palika Lakshmi Mataji, and Paris Mataji.
Shari Radvijaja Jorendriya Kahe Ka Jive Pele Vishaya Sadore Karma Devi Vayati Loba Vasudumati Take Deta Krishna Boro Doyamo Kori Bare Shivaja Swapashadanda Diloba Shreyanam Vitapao Radha Krishna Gunagao Prerako Shri Chaitanya Nika Mahaprasade Govinde Namo Brahmani Vaishave Sarva Punya Padandajan Vishwaso Navijayate Hare Sarva Jitanam Amirasu Jayate Prasana Cheta Suryashu Bhutipaya Pratishtha Pavitra Satanga Vasanam Parishachita Udishta Gopino Dasa Shavamaya Devahi Shiksham Prishikam Vapi Nityam Vapi Radeshita Kati Matvena Bhoktayam Natrika Vatisharana Radesham Mastaka Kalam Mastaka Papamana Krisham Krishna Bhoktam Abravi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasad Ki Gaura Premanande Nikai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nikai Gaura Hari Bol Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna little more. You're at 50% now. Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. prasad and serve in the picnic area. Go straight out this door, take a sharp right, and you'll run right into it. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Hare Krishna.